with a good one.
Yeah, we got some two amazing women that we're going to have on the show, some great content to provide. So happy New Year and happy 2023.
As we move into the new year, Grace, any big time goals you're looking at setting? I'm not like a resolutioner, right? Like I don't write like my resolutions because I think like continuous improvement is the name of the game. But like, what about some goals? What are you wanting to accomplish this year? Could be career related or not.
I think I want to try to give back to my community a little bit more. I grew up, my family's big. We used to go volunteer at the shelter a couple of times a year, and I haven't done that in a while. And now that I'm back near my hometown, I want to try to give back a little bit more to the community. So I think that's one thing. We talked this morning on Freightways Now about doing the Girl Scout troop thing as well. So I want to do a little bit more philanthropy type of work, basically, here near where I'm from.
I love that. I love that. A very authentic to you type of goal for this year.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And it's, I'm the same. Like, if I set a goal or some type of resolution, I'm not going to hit it. But if I, put the lives of someone else on the line, like, and improving and helping them, then I'll run for it. That's for sure. I always putting others first.
There you go. I love that. I love that. One of my goals this year is to be a little more active on LinkedIn, maybe be a little bit more intentional, interact with some people, maybe create some of my own personal content. We'll see how that goes and where that takes me. So if you're not following me on LinkedIn yet, follow me on LinkedIn.
That's awesome. I'm excited for that. That's gonna be great. Plus, you're so busy outside of work too, so you're a busy gal. You don't need a resolution at this point.
Well, lots going on in the world of Kaylee. Grace, let's bring it back here to our show today. So as you mentioned, we've got some good content. We're kind of staying on that theme of philanthropy and nonprofits. And today we are talking to two incredible women who have created a book series to get folks more interested in the industry. And we're also talking a little bit about Truckers Against Trafficking and the fight against human trafficking, and to really bring more awareness to the issue and help people become more keen observers and hopefully save some lives.
Yeah, it's January, which means it's National Human Trafficking Prevention Month. And we all know that Truckers Against Trafficking is one of the biggest organizations that we have against fighting human trafficking as well. I think a lot of people don't, or maybe underestimate how often truckers are involved with solving and helping with these crimes. So I'm really excited that we're going to touch on this a little bit as well, because it's there's a lot of red flags, and I think areas where people can help out, especially traveling around the road right now.
Let's talk a little bit about some of those red flags. Obviously, it depends on the different profession, but human trafficking is something that can happen at any point and really in any mode of transportation, right? We see it often with over-the-road drivers. We see it sometimes with folks who are trafficked in using a charter bus system or things like that. Let's talk about some of those red flags specifically for over-the-road drivers.
Yeah. So this one I think is huge, and this is especially for even in airports as well. Lack of knowledge of their own whereabouts, or especially control of their own identification. That's going to be a huge one, especially no matter what age as well. You want to, of course, watch out for that at any age that the male or female might be. Of course, for those in the truck, any type of chatter. We all know about lot lizards and the terms that are out there for where some of these situations could be happening. So watching out for that. Of course, restricted control of communication. I think that goes a lot aligned with the first one. Acknowledgement of some type of pimp or some type of quota that they're making. That likely you're going to hear throughout different conversations at a truck stop, or again, airports are huge. Even your own neighborhoods as well, you want to watch out for. And then a vehicle out of place. I think that's I actually have a friend who avoided being kidnapped in a human trafficking situation in Michigan once, and that was one of the signs that her friends had helped and actually caught and grabbed her before they unfortunately almost grabbed and took her. If you see a van or an RV in a location where it's really not supposed to be there, and it's tough these days, right, with taxis, Ubers, deliveries, but when you sense it and you feel it in your gut, it's time to speak up and say something. So that last one there is definitely huge, especially for even your own neighborhoods as well.
Important as we put a lot of the onus to stop this over the road on the drivers, right? They're the ones who are interacting maybe with other drivers at the truck stop. Maybe they see someone who looks out of place, maybe a younger child or a younger female or someone who just doesn't necessarily belong. And they're maybe afraid to say something to authorities or to really kind of make that report because they're not quite sure. And oftentimes those drivers don't necessarily engage with the public a ton, right? You're not necessarily seeing these people come in and out of your truck. So you're used to engaging with the drivers. But you mentioned the rideshare aspect of that. And I really want to touch on the rideshare a lot because oftentimes Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, rideshare drivers are front facing to public patrons, right? You could have someone who is a trafficker bringing their victim with them in the back of an Uber or a taxi or a cab. And it's that driver's job to notice and to really make sure that they're picking up on the clues and paying attention and then making the proper reports.
Yeah, most definitely. And when you talk about reporting as well, and this, I think, especially for truck drivers out there, a lot of them are very strong individuals who a lot of times are, let's be honest, packing their own weapons as well. Don't take this into your own hands. Don't become the law. Don't be
no vigilante. No vigilantes in here.
Yeah, none of it. Make sure it's reported and move forward from there. But I think that's a big part of this too. Even those in the Uber situations, don't go off on a baby driver situation trying to fly around and save the day. Maybe drive to a local station, something of that nature. But don't try to take any of the law into your hands because that could just lead to a more dangerous situation.
Absolutely. So it's National Human Trafficking Prevention Month, and you can head on over to truckersagainsttrafficking.org and really gain some valuable knowledge just from Citizen here. But Truckers Against Trafficking also has an app that you can download as well. That's on iOS and Google Play, and you can get their resources and really figure out how to arm yourself and be better prepared. You don't even necessarily have to be a driver or someone involved in the transportation industry. You don't have to be a trucker to fight against trafficking. You can just be a normal human person who wants to see the stop.
Yeah, and for those drivers out there, they actually ETAT, E-T-A-T, is their ELD-friendly app as well. So if you don't want to put another application on your phone, you can actually download one on your ELD as well, which is probably one of the best ways to use that interface, right? So tons of ways to get involved, tons of ways to report something that you've seen. And I've talked to them in the past. It's always best to report than underreport, right? Even if you're like, I'm not sure, I don't want to get into a situation. A lot of times those odd situations are the ones that end up saving a life. So if you see something, say something.
Absolutely, 100%. It's so important to bring this issue to light, Grace, but let's go ahead and introduce our guests. Maybe turn to a little bit of a lighter note. We've got two incredible women joining us today, both of whom have created a book series introducing children to the world of trucking. So with us today, we've got Debbie Sparks and we've got Linda Hagopian, both co-founders of Good Buggy. And guys, thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Hello.
Very excited.
Hello, ladies. Excited to see you. I saw Debbie at Reese Across America, so we just recently saw each other, and happy to have you guys on the show.
Yeah, she was excited to meet you. She told me about that. Yeah, great.
So, Debbie, you are Executive Director of the National Motor Freight Traffic Association. You are a board member of Reese Across America. You and Linda have both co-founded and created this book series. Starting off with you, give us a little bit of a background of involvement and how you got interested and involved in truck transportation and how you've really developed into these multiple, very interesting roles.
A lot of time on my hands. No, I fell into trucking, honestly. I was in the .com, and it was back in the days when we had the Soho and the .com crashed, and I worked for a small company, and we were purchased by Kinko's, and we actually did some of the first packaging with FedEx. We were creating the online version for Kinko's back before you brought in your floppy disk and you wanted to do it virtually. And we had to create packaging and do it all over the world. And the job offer came in to move to California, and I lived in Washington, D.C., and it just wasn't what I wanted to do. And so I put my resume out, and I got an invitation from the American Trucking Associations to come in and head up their marketing. And I took it. And that was the beginning of my journey in trucking, and have been in here ever since. And my legacy, I think, is the children book series, because what I learned is everybody in the trucking industry that I've met is they're patriots, they're believers in this country, they're the doers, they're the backbone, they're the people you can trust and rely on, and have met just some of the most amazing relationships through this industry. And one of the things that I always felt is that there weren't enough people amplifying the wonderful things about our industry, and that's what hooked me and kept me here. And it was through that I met Linda. She came in, when I was working at the Truckload Carriers Association as their vice president, we needed help in our education area and growing our training and education. And she was a consultant that came in to help us. And we got talking about, she had a passion for kids and being an author, and I had a passion for trucking. And we just, after we would meet in our regular jobs, we would chit chat about this endeavor, and we finally did it.
And they're great books. I've bought them for my nieces. I just recently bought them for Christmas gifts. I love them. They're so detailed and so focused on this industry. Linda, what's the book writing process like, especially for a book like this that does really wrap in a lot of the industry in its plot lines?
Right. So Debbie and I, when we meet, we talk about kind of the overall theme. So when we first decided to do this, we were talking about how wonderful it would be to tell some really great stories about, truck drivers and some of the challenges that they confront and that kind of thing. Some of the fun stories that they have. A lot of that comes from Debbie, because she has been in the industry for so long and knows so many people and knows so many drivers. So we started thinking about it, and we thought, how could we tell the story? And then we decided that, well, kind of on a monthly basis, there's always an event or an activity. And we know most things involve trucking at some point, right? To get supplies and goods from point A to point B. So we thought about a theme, an activity for every month. So July was, delivering hot dogs to the 4th of July party. August was, I'm sorry, I screwed up, but ice cream to the 4th of July party, and then hot dogs to the Little League World Series, right? So we took every month basically and outlined kind of what that trail would be like and what that adventure would be like. So
I love this.
Kind of the book writing process. Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. I mean, Debbie and I, first of all, it's based off of a really good, solid friendship, and our personalities really mesh. We have a lot of fun creating the storylines. We have a lot of fun creating characters and names for characters.
No. We fight too. We fight. Because Linda will go down a creative tangent, and she's writing, and I'll be like, no, a truck driver would never do that. No, you cannot do that. Linda, that's not how it happens. We can't. And she's like, Debbie, it's a creative children's book. We can embellish. I'm like, no, because we're going to show respect for the truck drivers in the industry. You can't do that. And she's like, okay. I get a little bit too passionate. Yes.
That's I look at that as fun. That's fun. That's the creative process, So, that's what I'm used to. I'm in marketing communications my entire career, and we have those kinds of activities and interactions all of the time. So it's all part of the creative process. But you're right, Debbie really is, gets really detailed about these things, because she wants it to be, I will say, while this is intended to be for a wider audience, we know the trucking industry is going to be particularly interested, and, they'll call a foul. No, that's not what we do. Just like Debbie does in the creative process, right? They'll say, I don't know if that's really what I want, what happens on the road, but, we have a good time with it. So.
You know, I think about how formative pieces of media like this are for kids as they're starting to explore their options and think about, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I'm a meteorologist by trade, right? And I was like a 6-year-old saying, I want to be a meteorologist. I learned that word from the Magic School Bus, from hearing Miss Frizzle talk about it, and like Miss Frizzle does the weather, right? And without that piece of media, I wouldn't have gotten into my career and found an interest in a field that is honestly pretty obscure. Same thing with the driver industry, right? A lot of us are trying to kind of rewrite the narrative of what truck driving is. And especially in the last few years, there's been a really, really great effort in kind of removing the curtain, taking away the mask, and removing a lot of stereotype from what the industry brings. That gets people and younger kids more interested in how they can help support America's economy, literally keeping us running. Debbie, can you talk a little bit about, from the trucking side of things, how important that is and what that means to you to know that you guys are doing the work to get the next generation interested in supporting our economy?
So yes, and this kind of answers my favorite character question too. So at TCA for 10 years in the truckload side of the business, I mean, it's driver shortage, and how do we make the industry appealing, and how do we tell the true story? And when TCA would run our annual driver contest, and we would interview the drivers, and we'd ask different questions. And a lot of times the questions that they would pick to answer were what they would see and experience on the road. And the stories that would come out of that were awesome. And it was things that you'll never see sitting in an office, sitting behind a desk, working in a warehouse. And then I started thinking about my nieces and my nephews, and a lot of that generation that doesn't feel the pressure to go to college right away, that's trying to find themselves, really figure out what their calling is, but their parents are screaming at them, make a living, get independent. And I thought, and that's kind of where the idea, and Linda kind of had a couple nephews, and I had a nephew and nieces, and we were like, you can ride your bike, you can bring your bike, you can bring snowboards, and we learned this from a lot of the drivers, the places that they would go and see, the family that they could visit, the adventures that they get to do. And we thought that's what we really need to highlight, but also, tie it back into training and education. Let's learn about geography. Let's learn about the world. We also built in the glossary, so we would tie in trucking terms. So if they wanted some new vocabulary, they could have that. But, it kind of tied back really to how do we address the driver shortage? We're looking at autonomous trucks, but, there's still that, the tiny movement started, and why haul a tiny house when you could haul a trailer and make money, and you could live in a really, really tiny house. So it all kind of paralleled with what was going on, and kind of filling a need, but also our creative side of really wanting to write a children's storybook and fill that need. So Linda was very kind in letting us fine tune it into trucking.
Oh, no, it was great too. I mean, we actually have in the book too, Debbie mentions the glossary, but we actually added an adventure map that shows them how he got from point A to point B, and in the next story, he goes walleye fishing up at Lake Erie, and we have the adventure map include that. And he's a real adventure guy. He takes his bike, Trip Wheeler, I'm talking about, the main character of the book. Anyway, I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Kaylee. Go ahead.
No, it's well, hey, one of my questions was going to be, is there going to be another book? So thank you for answering that one. For you guys to introduce the audience a little bit to the characters, who's one of your favorite characters from the book, and why?
Linda, you go first.
Okay, I'll go first. And this may be because I recently got my first dog, and I love Detour. I just love Detour, and the personality of Detour is an Australian Shepherd. He's out and about, and he's always looking around, and he at the end, the reason we called him Detour is at the end of every book, all of a sudden he's gone. And he's exploring, and they have to find him. So I would say, Detour. And then some of the small add-ins that we have, I love Rusty Hooligan. He's in the second book, And he is a cranky old truck driver that looks, his personality is just his name. So he's a little rusty, So, but anyway, go ahead, Debbie, you go next.
No, and I have to say, Rusty Hooligan was designed after a lot of our old, very traditional drivers. I thought about when we switched to electronic logs, we're not going to do it. But what they don't always show you that you learn in Rusty, our character, the biggest hearts in the world. They have that very rough exterior, but they've got the biggest hearts. They'll do anything for you once they let you in. My favorite really was Dolly. And it's Dolly and Trip because it's the contrast of the two, like the story that Linda was hinting at. They're going to be making the delivery. They're both going to the same place. And Dolly recommends, since they had to strap their load, it's a flatbed, that maybe they should go and stay the night at the rest stop. And Trip wasn't having anything to do with it. He's going walleye fishing on Lake Erie, and he's not going to do it. And that's when he gets into trouble. So it's the young driver against more the seasoned, Dolly's more of the mentor, and she lets him do his thing, but she always kind of helps solve the problem. So those are probably my two favorite. But Rusty does hold a special place in my heart.
So I've got to say now, I'm going to have to go read the books because this is my Australian Shepherd. This is Goose.
No kidding.
And he is totally relatable. You know what? I will take him on a road trip, and if I turn my back, he's gone, right? But now I'm going to have to go read the books and get Goose to relate to that character. Where can people go to find these and to learn a little bit more about them? Are we talking like independent bookstores? Are they out on Amazon? Where can folks go?
All Amazon.
Yes, they are on Amazon, and we do have a website too. It's 10-4 Good Buggy, so it's the 10-4 Good Buggy also. So yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're great gifts. They're very great for introducing your nieces, nephews, kids to the industry. They have to solve problems. There's reefer breakdowns. There's detours by detour as well. So it's a great way to explain even like what a warehouse manager is and what a dock worker is in book 2. So a lot of good stuff in there.
It's so funny. I have to tell a quick story. So when I started my new job with the NMFTA back in February, and I was meeting our board, one of the board members came up to me and he said, "My wife thinks that you might be the same person that authors the story, the 10-4 Good Buggy story." And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh my gosh, my grandchildren love that." He said, "I've been in trucking my whole life." And she's always Googling to try to find books about trucking for the grandkids. He said, and we've bought yours. And he said the same question, "What's your next book? When's it coming out? They want more." And yes, Grace, we do have another one coming out.
Yay. Yeah. So excited.
Oh, and I'd like to mention too, just for a moment, that many people have told us that they love the books just as much as the kids do, because there is that humor and those nuances and those terms in there that, make it fun for the parents too, to read to the kids. So yeah.
Well, ladies, excellent work. And thank you so much, both of you guys, for coming on the show today to talk a little bit about this. Obviously, you mentioned you can go to 10-4goodbuggy.com to find all of those. But if people want to reach out to you guys individually, can they go ahead and do that and maybe ask some questions?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you want us to give out our emails?
Just however people want to get to you. LinkedIn, email, just go to the website?
LinkedIn, Debbie Sparks.
I'm on LinkedIn. Yep.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much. And of course, you can head on over to that website to get caught up with them. Grace, we are done here for the day, but I'm definitely going to go maybe check out some of their books. Maybe my dog Goose needs to find a buddy in Detour.
Oh, definitely. And there's just there's so many other smaller characters too that you meet throughout it's really funny as someone in the industry to see how it could come out in a book style, and they do a great job. So hopefully excited for the next one to come out, a Christmas gift next year.
There you go. Keep the series rolling. Grace, speaking of keeping things rolling, we've got more coming up for the rest of our day here. We can find you this afternoon on Sirius XM. Time, place, who you got tonight?
So you can find us every day, Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on SiriusXM. If you miss it, you can catch it at 11 p.m. or you can catch 2 weeks of episodes on demand. Tonight we have actually a guest who's going to be on the Sales and Marketing Summit. That's LB, Lauren Bailey from Factor 8. So she's going to kind of give some tips and a sneak peek of our chat on Thursday. And then Thomas Watson will be on as well, probably cracking some jokes and making us all laugh. So it'll be a good old time.
There you go. And get registered for that Sales and Marketing Summit. That's Thursday here on Freightwaves. Thank y'all for tuning in with us. We'll catch you next week on Great Quarter Gals.
1, 2, 3.